10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, your host here at No Soundbites Allowed podcast. And I hope everyone is having a great day. I want to thank you all for joining us here with me. I hope everyone is enjoying it and have a great time as we're right about on the corner of Thanksgiving. And I hope that everyone is going to have, everyone who can hear this, everyone who has a chance to listen to it or see it on Facebook or wherever, that you have a great Thanksgiving, that you enjoy yourselves. Now, as many of you may have noticed, for those who are listening to the audio-only version of this, the intro may sound a little off, and I'm trying to work with that. But we have a brand new intro. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope everyone found it to be fun and interesting. If you didn't, please let me know, and I'll try and do my very best to improve it. We're always trying to improve ourselves here at the podcast, and your input makes the difference. So please, if you thought I can improve it some way, please let me know. I'll try and make it happen. And I did, as I said, right off the top, the very first thing, I mean, it's not breaking news here, but I like my sound effects.
Newsflash. Newsflash.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. If you did not know, this is being published the day before November 21st, which is Wednesday. Tomorrow, the 22nd, will be Thanksgiving. And I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving to one and all. That means to the Democrats, to the conservatives, the libertarians, my fellow Republicans, and yes, even to Antifa. I hope everybody, not just in America, but everywhere in the world, gets to have a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully we can have a day of peace, a day where everyone is fed and everyone has a warm place to sleep. That would be the ideal, and I will hope that for everyone. Whether or not it happens, we can always hope and we can always try. That's my viewpoint. And so that's where I want to start off with actually today. Because you often hear, especially this time of year, there are some people out there who just seem to, well, I guess I could say don't get it, but that wouldn't quite be right. They get it. They just don't care, it seems. And, I'm talking about people who are part of the fringe, the people who are angry all the time. Whether their candidates won or lost, it doesn't matter. They're just always angry because people have different ideas than they do. I'm talking about people like in my local region, in the southern tier of Broome County. We're talking about Matt Ryan, as an example, a gentleman who was the former mayor. I've spoken to him. I've known him for 7 years now, personally as well as professionally. And Matt likes to get on the local talk news radio station, that's WMBF. And he's always very upset about, well, we're just lucky to be born in America. And that's his saying. We're doing everything wrong in America, and we're just lucky to be born here. We could have been born somewhere else. And because of that, we have to give away everything to everyone else, which is only very slightly an exaggeration of what he says. It's almost word for word what he believes. Matt is a unrepentant far left liberal, actually a far left progressive, and good luck to him on that. Fantastic. But you know what? He's right. We are lucky to be born in America. And I am happy. I am ecstatic. I am really, really pleased with the fact that I'm born in America, because America is a great place. And we should all be so lucky to be born in America. And everyone in the world doesn't get to be born in America. Now, I don't think people choose to be born in Ethiopia where there's famines, or be born in Sudan where there's ethnic cleansing. I don't think people choose to be born in Iran where they don't have the freedom to speak and women have to be clothed whether they want to or not in the hijabs, where you're restricted in your freedoms. I don't know that everyone would choose that if they could choose these things. In fact, I'm pretty sure people wouldn't. They wouldn't want to be starving in North Korea if they didn't have to. They wouldn't be living in, not Honduras, Venezuela, where there is the constant, right now, the country's breaking down. People are starving to death. There are literally death squads walking around killing people. Over 500 people have been killed by the police who've gone, the authoritarian police of that government, that have just gone absolutely wild. Now, I don't think people would choose that if they could make a choice. And if we could make a choice, I think everyone would want to be more American. That isn't the case. Yes, we are lucky to be born in America. Does that mean we give away everything? No. No, it doesn't. And while we want to help everyone, and America is the most, by and far away, the most generous nation in the world, and to my knowledge, the history of the world. No other nation gives so much to so many. And that is a great thing. And that's because we have the freedom to do it. It's not our government picking and choosing countries to decide to help out. It's not the government taking away from us and redistributing to others as they decide they want to do it for their political gain. It's because of the goodness of our hearts, because we're good people. We're Americans. We love everyone. And we do this out of the good, because we're just good people. So, yeah, we won a lottery. We wound up in America. Thank goodness. And you know what? That's one of the things I want to be thankful for, that I am an American, that I do have the ability to have the technology and to have the freedom to be able to speak with you, to celebrate this, and out of the goodness of my heart, to make donations where I feel it can be best used to countries, whether I want to help donate food or I donate my time and my services, whatever it may be. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of some opponents in the political arena want to pick on people, make you feel bad because, well, you have the ability to do these things, that you can give these things and you can help people out. Because we have this choice and because we, by and large, as Americans, do help so many people out, they want you to feel bad because those other people aren't in a position to do anything but receive. Well, you know what? I don't feel bad about that, and I will never feel bad about that. That's the nature of the world. Some people have greater challenges than others. But that doesn't mean I'm somehow a bad person because I don't have the same challenge as someone from the Sudan or someone from Venezuela. No, that doesn't make me a bad person. It just means I have a different position in life. And you know what? That always hasn't been so good. I haven't always owned a home. I haven't always had this technology. No, I've been homeless. I've lived on the street, okay? I've lost jobs. I've been without work. I've starved, not to the extent of someone in Ethiopia, but, you know, I've been hungry. I think many people throughout their lifetimes will go through periods of time where they're hungry, where they need a warm place to stay, where they need to be safe. And you know what? That doesn't make us better or worse. And I really don't like when I hear people, like Matt Ryan implies and has stated, that somehow we're wrong or something has been done wrong in the universe or in the world, in their worldview, that somehow we're wrong because at this moment I may not be suffering or suffering as much as someone else. It's not how it works. And that's a misguided view, I think. So if someone tries to take you down on Thanksgiving or at the next couple of days saying, oh my goodness, how dare you have all this wealth, have this peace and prosperity. You know what? Sorry, I'm not that person. It's not going to work on me. And by the way, when I send out this message, and I send this message to everyone for a happy Thanksgiving for all, this is with the horn of prosperity. That's a horn of plenty. It's meant to wish you bountiful and plentifulness. So a bountiful food and warmth and happiness with your family. But this is a political podcast, and so I'm talking about politics. And there is a political edge to this. Hopefully, it's a upbeat one. I'm trying to stay upbeat here. I'm trying to make this positive, but I also want to address serious issues. And I'm not going to shy away from the fact that there's serious issues that need to be addressed and talked about. And people need to be reminded that it's not a bad thing to be an American. If we weren't, Germany would be in big trouble. France would be in really big trouble. England would be in big trouble. You know, there's a large portion of this world that would be having massive problems right now, and there wouldn't be such a thing as Thanksgiving if it weren't for America, very simply. So I'll never feel bad about that. But I do have to tell you, there's a couple things that I'm very thankful for, besides being in America. It's being in America where we have the First Amendment, because that allows me to have the opportunity to speak with all of you. And we should all celebrate that we can have this speech, that you're not compelled to listen to me. And I really appreciate the fact that you do listen to me without some government goon standing over you with a gun saying, you're going to watch and listen to this. See, that's not how it works in America. It works like that in many countries, but no, that's not how it is here. In China, you can't get the internet. Everything is censored. In Iran, in the former Soviet Union, things are censored. You can only get the things that the government says you should have because they're smarter than you. Sounds like a lot of progressives in the Antifa crowd, that you can only know what they want you to know. You can only believe what they want you to believe. You can only think the things that are approved. That's not how it is in America. I'm thankful. And this is why I'm a near absolutist when it comes to the First Amendment. You should be able to say almost anything that you want to, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone or cause someone to be hurt, or if it's a flat-out lie. Those are restrictions. I think those are smart restrictions. And beyond that, you should say anything that you believe, anything that you want to discuss, because that's how we improve things. That's how we get things to be better. If we don't talk about a problem, if we don't try and find a solution, if we don't work out the quirks of any idea, then we never improve. We never move forward. That's just the way the world is. Not just human nature, but the world. And so I appreciate and I thank our founding fathers, and I thank everyone, the judges, that have allowed us to get to this point where we have that freedom and we have the internet to be able to speak even more quickly and more broadly to everyone that we know and to share our ideas, whether people like them all or not. You don't have to agree with them all. No one's compelling you to do that, but just to have them. So that's my thought there. Now, but I want to move on to some other thoughts. Now, one of the other things that I'm thankful for is the Second Amendment, which is, I'm a major advocate of the Second Amendment. I think everyone knows that. There is no surprise there, because I love the Second Amendment, because I believe it backs up the First Amendment and ensures that we can actually have freedom of speech, that we can discuss ideas without some government goon coming over with a gun to your head either before or after you've said something and you suddenly disappear. You know, and this protects us from becoming North Korea or Iran or Venezuela or China. The only thing that prevents that is, and I think Japan in World War II mentioned that there's an American with a gun behind every blade of glass who wants to invade that because it's suicide. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. The fact that there are 160 million people in America with firearms right now is what protects America from many people in the world who would kill us, whether you're a liberal or a conservative alike, and they would kill us just because we exist, because we have stuff that they don't have or things that they don't think anyone should have. And so that's important, that the Second Amendment exists there, and I'm very much an advocate of the Second Amendment. And I know a lot of people say, well, Mike, there's still horrible things that happen in the world, and that's because of guns. And I counter to you, no, it's not. It's because of bad people. And bad people exist whether they're using a car, whether they're using a baseball bat, a knife. In fact, if you look over the data, as I've done many, many times, and you can look at the many podcasts I've had, the many articles I've written on this, you know what? Consistently, people are getting killed with their bare hands, with knives, with cars, with bombs, far, far more regularly than with any firearm. And if firearms were so absolutely deadly, there's as many firearms as there are people. Every man, woman, and child in America, there's as many firearms, about 350 million firearms in America. If the firearms themselves were absolutely inherently evil and deadly, we wouldn't have 330 million people in America. Point blank. And that's not counting the guns in the rest of the world as well. It's just not true. Bad people do bad things, and that's a problem. Firearms help protect us from those bad people doing bad things in our country and outside of it. But obviously, that's a controversial point of view. Not everyone agrees with that. And again, we're in America, which is fantastic. They don't have to agree with me. We have the rule of law. And the rule of law, the Constitution says that, and it restricts the government from trying to take my firearms. And let's remember, the Constitution isn't there for the government to tell me what I can do. The Constitution is there to tell the government what it can't do. And that's a big difference. It's a massively different thing, because the government is not allowed to take my firearms, because I inherently have that right. Absolute. With some restrictions. You know, I don't get to have a bazooka. I don't get to have a flamethrower. I don't get to have a tank without going through a series of licenses and approvals. Although you can have a tank, you can have a flamethrower, you can have a machine gun if you have the proper license, if you go through the process. So you do have a right to have those. But realistically, you don't. And there is no such thing as a military-style semi-automatic. That's just a series of redundant and ridiculous statements. Every semi-automatic firearm is a military style. Every firearm is a military-style firearm. Every firearm was at one time a military weapon, and still are. I mean, so are swords, so are pitchforks, so is a knife. You know, your steak knife is a military weapon. Just depends on which point in time you're talking about. So it's a silly statement. But the point of why I'm going into that and talking about it now, as we're about to go into Thanksgiving and hopefully over the Thanksgiving weekend, is I want to talk about something I saw the other day. And that is that New York State is moving forward to try and take away people's firearms, and doing so by taking their social media passwords. Now, this is an idea by State Senator Kevin Parker. And it's a really odd concept. And I want you to think about this. You've got a couple days over the holiday. Think about this, because this is what they're planning to do in 2019. In January of 2019, roughly the second or third week, there's a series of gun control bills, quote unquote, that are going to be passed by the new Democratic-led state Senate, okay, under Governor Cuomo on his path to 2020 to try and outdo Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who's also looking to become president of the United States and get the Democratic nod. And so this is his feather in his cap to say, I'm going to make New York safe, which is something he's been saying for many, many years, and it doesn't get any safer through his policies, because his policies don't actually make people safe. They embolden criminals, and it makes it easier for a criminal to encroach or endanger someone. It doesn't really make anyone law-abiding any safer, because it hasn't. Look up the numbers, it hasn't. But my point is, their new idea that they decided to put out on November 14th, roughly a week after the election, actually a week and a day after the 2018 elections, when no one was paying attention to politics. And I know, I see this every year. There's a nosedive, it's a cliff dive in public attention to politics once an election is done and they see the final numbers, and everyone says, I don't want to talk about politics anymore, except the politics continue to happen and affect our lives every single day. So whether you're paying attention to the politics or not, the politics are paying attention to you. And in this case, State Senator Kevin Parker decided that he wants to go out there and make a mark for Governor Cuomo and help take away people's firearms because he doesn't like them. Mostly because he believes that, and he has said this in 2010, that he believes that Republicans are forces of evil and they're white supremacists. Somehow I didn't think I was a white supremacist, but according to Senator Kevin Parker, I must be because I am a Republican. Who knew? But separate of that. So his idea is that, well, anyone who wants to get a handgun, whether that's a rifle or a pistol, for them to be able to get approved, to get the license to be able to have that handgun in New York State. Or if you already have one and you have to renew your license every couple of years to get a renewal, you have to first give the government, New York State, the password to all of your social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that, as well as submit to a search through all of your Google or your Firefox or any of your search engine media, and they will look through this. They will go back 3 years looking through everything you had, your private messages, your public messages, what you were looking up, whether it was porn or whether it was research, doesn't matter. They're going to look at all of that. And then if they like what they see, they will either approve you or they will deny you the ability to have the firearm. Now, there's a lot of problems with this. Besides the fact that this would be a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Now, again, how does he get around the bill? And by the way, I want to show you the bill so you know exactly what it is. You can look this up for yourself. You can find out for yourself. This is New York State Senate Bill S09191. Okay? So you can look this up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. And I also have the article, which is at the mvos.com, the Voss Political Commentary website. And the article is New York State wants to know your social media password for your safety. That's the article. And so you can look this up for yourself and read into it in the bill itself. And they say they want to go in, and because you're going to volunteer. Now, mind you, if you don't do this under the proposal by Senator Parker, you don't get a firearm license, so you can't renew your license, therefore you're a criminal. If you own a firearm and you don't have the license, you're a criminal. So he either wants to make you a criminal or prevent you from being able to exercise your Second Amendment right. If you deny the government the right to go through your private information that is protected by the Supreme Court, that is your private property, no different than your home or your car or anything else that you own, that they cannot get into without a warrant otherwise. So there's a Fourth Amendment issue right there. Here's another issue. Let's say that you actually volunteer. For some reason, you decide that you're going to give the government, because you trust the government. You believe the government can do no wrong, which we have been proven time and time again, yes, they can. But let's say you give the government this right because you don't want to be a criminal and you own a firearm, you're renewing your license. And so you go and you say, okay, here's my passwords. They now get to go through all of your information, everything you have written and said, and everything that has been written and said to you. They get to read all of that. What are they doing with this information? Whomever this person is that represents the government, that's going through your personal information, what are they doing with that? Are they keeping that now? Because it's now public record, it would appear. So anyone, technically, if they knew to look this up, would be able to read anything and everything that you personally have written and said and searched for on the internet over the last 3 years. Do you really want that available for everyone in the world? Do you even want that just for the government itself to know all of that information about you? And I would think most people don't, because they're upset with Facebook sharing their information with businesses to sell them stuff. If you don't want Facebook to sell your personal information to a business to sell you stuff, why would you give it to a government that wants to control you? Because that's what governments do. They control you. So there's a problem there. So the problem's bigger than just the Second Amendment. This is the Fourth Amendment. This is the First Amendment. This is invading your ability to speak. It's actually, and if it goes through, and it will, if enough people don't pay attention to this, if this goes through, this will chill your ability to speak freely because some agent of the government is going through your material and then making decisions about your life, which may classify you as a criminal because of it. Let's look at a different aspect of it, though. Let's assume that they go through and they find something that they don't like, something that causes them to have a pause. Who knows what it could be? It could be almost anything. It could be the fact that you say that you acknowledge that you're a Republican or a conservative or a libertarian, something that this person doesn't like. Maybe even you could even be Antifa. Perhaps they saw that and they didn't like that. And now they have this knowledge. And imagine this person going through with a fine comb and saying, hey, could I make this person, make you into a domestic terrorist? Could they say that you've broken the law somewhere? Maybe they don't like a picture you have. You have a picture of your nephew or your kid, and they're sitting on your lap because they're a baby, and you're like taking a picture for your mom or your cousin. And they're like, oh, you know what? That picture, that's you with that baby. We're going to call that porn, child porn, because the baby is just in a diaper. Or maybe it's just your baby pic. You're laying on the bed and you've got a picture. I mean, my mom has one of me when I was a baby. I was about, I don't know, a year old. And I'm just laying there naked in the bed. Lots of kids' moms have pictures like that. Imagine that being on the internet. And guess what? That would classify as child pornography if you share it with one. In fact, if you even have it in your computer, that's considered child pornography. Just for all the moms out there that may be wondering about this. So if you have a picture of your child that is naked for whatever reason at any age that is under the age of consent, under 18, that is considered child pornography. And all you need is for the government to be looking through your records, your private information, and they see that, and oh, you know, we would have given you the gun license or approved the application, except we ran into this child pornography that's on your computer. Not only you're not getting the license, you're now getting arrested. Or we're starting a public investigation on you, which will destroy your good name, possibly take away your job. You'll never be able to go to a school again, to even pick up your kids. You have all of your neighbors and everyone in your community looking at you as some kind of monster because you have a picture of your kid or your family member from when they were born. And you say to me, Mike, that's just silly. No one would do that. No, but they can do that. The law would allow them to do that. And if you volunteer, if Senator Parker's bill, S09191, is passed, they can do that. And they can abuse the power of the government and the access to your private information and charge you with crimes that really aren't crimes just because they don't like you. So it's even worse than the suppression that we see that Facebook, Twitter, Google, they've admitted it. They actively suppress the public knowledge. And I know that this is happening right now. I'm running into more problems on my Facebook page, which is the Voss Political Commentary page on Facebook. When I published this article, this article, and I posted it on Facebook, guess what? As it has gained in the thousands, the number of people who are not aware of this, because no other major news media that I am aware of has spoken about this, and they're not talking about it, and because I'm making people aware of this, and in the thousands, I've noticed that there is more and more trouble with connections to my site. I've had other people tell me they're having more and more trouble connecting to the site to be able to get the article on Facebook. Thank goodness it's on my website, which is as you see scrolling past, the mvass.com, so you can always be able to go there because Facebook and Google don't control that. But I'm noticing that the people who are going through social media to find it are having more and more trouble getting access. That's a suppression of thought. But that's not the same thing. That's not a crime. Whether it should be or not is another question altogether, but that's not a crime. What is possibly the crime is that someone in the law enforcement or for the government, an agent of the government, is going through your private information, and based on how they feel about that information they find there, they can charge you with crimes. They could charge you with adultery. Just because you're having you're married and you're speaking to someone and they don't like the tone or the comment that you may make to a friend of yours, and they would consider that adultery. The applications and the potential for abuse, separate of the Second Amendment altogether, is enormous. But this is being done under the blanket of gun control, and this is going to make you safer. Notice I haven't even mentioned firearms here yet. This is all about your privacy. This is all about the Fourth Amendment. This is about the government doing things that it could not legally do any other way. That they would need to get a warrant. They would need to get a judge, show probable cause to be able to get into your private information and to try and touch on this information. And even then, the scope of what they could get is limited, and they would not be able to keep the information. But under the bill by State Senator Kevin Parker of the 21st District of New York, and that's not congressional district, but State Senate District of New York, which is down in New York City, he is looking to take away your rights. And this is a nice end around to say, no, you're going to be safe. We're going to make you safe. We're going to stop law-abiding citizens from being able to have handguns. And by doing that, or at least under that umbrella, we're also going to investigate what you privately think and say, and we will punish people randomly for being able to say what they think. That's the First Amendment. That's the Fourth Amendment. How dare they? How dare they? And people are saying to me, you know what? A lot of people are telling me, I've talked to many institutions, many Second Amendment groups, and there is a small segment of them that are telling me, well, Mike, don't worry about it. This happens all the time. They put bills in there and they know it's never going to pass. Don't worry about that because we're aware of it and, we're paying attention. I've had groups tell me that. Or, Mike, you're overreacting because, no one in their right mind would pass this. And yet, that was the same argument that was made to me about the SAFE Act. And the SAFE Act got passed. That's the same thing that's been said about many things over the years. And to assume that it can't possibly happen or that we shouldn't speak out about it because it's not a big deal, I don't agree with that. We used to have in New York State a safety valve. It was called the Republican Party in terms that in the state Senate, that if something were radically against the good of the people under the umbrella of progressivism or being a democratic socialist, the thing that could stop that is we had Republicans in the state Senate that might stop some of these bills. Not always, because this New York SAFE Act actually happened. But sometimes they can stop some of the crazier ideas, like this bill from State Senator Kevin Parker. There's no one in there anymore to do that. The state Senate is now filled with more of the democratic socialists that the Democratic Party is moving towards. We've already seen that in the last election. Governor Andrew Cuomo ran to the left to try and be more progressive and socialist than his opponents so that he could win, because that's where the party's apparently going, to meet up with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to meet up with Bernie Sanders in their race to become socialists and communists. And I have to tell you, Part of being a socialist and or a communist, whether it's a democratic socialist or just a straight up communist, is the same thing. The government controls speech. The government controls firearms. The government controls, full stop. And you should be concerned about that. Whether or not you think this bill, whether or not you think someone should be able to have a firearm, you should be very concerned that the government is asking for control of private information that will affect you. And I know someone's going to say to me, Mike, well, I don't have a firearm. This wouldn't apply to me. Did you talk to someone who does? Have you ever talked on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or done a Google search that would connect you to someone who does own a firearm? I would say you probably did. Since half the nation owns firearms, you probably have, and you just don't know it. And because of this bill, your information can be accessed by the government, even though you don't own a firearm. And that information can be used against you. So just because you don't own a firearm, you're still being affected. This is taking away your right to privacy, even though you don't own a firearm. Has nothing to do with firearms. This is about the Fourth Amendment and the First Amendment. And you get to lose all of that because someone in the government is saying, don't worry, you're going to be safe. We will protect you from the bad people until we decide that you're one of the bad people. I mean, that's a very interesting thought. But I've gone on a little bit long. Let me take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and I'll talk about, well, another interesting idea. And we'll talk again in just a moment. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us back here at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. That's right, Michael Voss is back with you, your host, and I hope everyone is doing well. I thank you, one and all, for joining me here on the podcast. You guys all make it worthwhile, and I hope that everyone's having a fantastic start to their Thanksgiving. If you are seeing this on Thanksgiving, I hope everyone is well fed and amongst friends and warmth and having a great time. And I thank you if you decided in between football games to watch this and see what I had to say today. Now, I've been talking about the idea that, one, we're grateful. I'm grateful that I live in America, that this is a wonderful nation with a constitution that protects me from the government and others and allows me to have the freedoms that many in the world wish that they could possibly have. And this is a good thing. This is a positive, and I'm happy about that. Whether someone to call that a luck of fate or just divine intervention or anything else, I don't care. I'm happy to be an American, and I'm happy to be here with you. And I'm also speaking a bit about what we're talking about here with the gun control. And this new idea in New York State by State Senator Kevin Parker, this bill that he decided to pass out there, which is S09191, a crazy bill that that claims that it'll protect you by taking your information, your privacy, and stripping it away. And somehow this will be able to make you safer. Now, I've been talking about the First and Fourth Amendment violations that this provides and the abuse that is absolutely rampant in this bill. The multiple ways that this can be abused by any individual in the government that happens to use this and will use this against you. And if the goal is to take away the ability for people to have a gun, this is a wonderful way to do it. They can find almost anything in your information and find some type of crime that would justify taking away your rights. And that's a scary, scary thought. And for the people who tell me, Mike, no, they're not coming to get your guns. Yes, they are. Look at this. This is CBS News and I know those who are not seeing the video and listening to audio, this is a news article that came out, I believe that was in May of 2018. Democratic congressmen force gun owners to get rid of assault weapons. That's Representative Eric Swalwell out of California. He's trying to pass a bill to be able to force people to no longer have their firearms, to no longer have the ability to protect themselves from the government, to force the government onto people, to take their property and their privacy. That's what he's looking to do. We've heard that from, it was former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, who said that we should abolish the Second Amendment altogether. We've heard this from groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matters, and many others on the far left, the Democratic Socialists, that seek to strip rights from us, to take from us by force. So when someone says, well, no, they're not looking to take away your guns, yes, they are. This is what they are saying. It's documented. MSNBC has noted it in their articles. It is published in the New York Times. They are actively saying this. So for me to say that as an advocate of the Second Amendment, I oppose this, it's not just my fantasy, it's real. And when I see bills like this one by State Senator Kevin Parker that is out there that is going to invade the Fourth Amendment, invade our privacy, and even those who are connected to me without knowing whether I'm a firearm owner or not, they're going to lose their privacy because of what he looks to do. And I am very sure he's looking to take away the rights of Republicans, who he believes are forces of evil, to take away their rights. And as a Republican, that means my rights. Yeah, that means it's going to affect a lot of people negatively. And that's a problem. And, and I see, what I'm thankful for? That I'm able to talk to people like you and be able to speak about the red flag legislation that second week or third week of January, along with the gun control bill by Kevin Parker, that we may see that we're going to lose our due process, our Fifth Amendment right, as well as our Fourth Amendment right, as well as our First Amendment right, along with the Second Amendment right, stripping half the Bill of Rights. Half of the amendments are going to be stripped away from us if it weren't for the fact that I live in America and we can talk about this and we can share this. And I understand certain organizations believe, Mike, you're just being extreme, that this is never going to happen. You're okay. You know, I like that. I like to believe that, but I'm not going to leave it to chance. I'm not going to just sit back and hope that, well, no, they probably aren't going to be that authoritative. No, they're not going to enact the same kind of socialist reforms that we've seen that took over Venezuela and turned it into a cesspool, quite honestly, which is, I think, the best description of what's going on in Venezuela right now as anyone can make. That, yes, this is something I'm concerned about. And yeah, I'll speak about it because it's the First Amendment. And I'm not relying on some other organization or some other individual or some other group to assign a priority or to say, well, now you can talk about it, or you can talk about it this much, or we're going to protect it so you can just forget about it. No, that's not how it works in America. That isn't how it's supposed to work in America. We're supposed to have this conversation, you and I. We're supposed to make sure that we're protecting our rights because it's on us to do that as individuals. That's how America became bountiful. That's a reason why we have the ability to give thanks for so many things. Because we have the freedom to be able to have a conversation, to say I agree or I disagree, and this is why, and why I think this is a good idea or a bad idea. Now, I personally, as I said, I'm a Second Amendment advocate. I'm a First Amendment advocate. I think that the bill by Senator Parker is absolutely horrendous. I think the bill on the red flag legislation is absolutely horrendous. And I can detail, and I have in many articles, which you can look up, and many podcasts, where I can detail exactly how this can be abused and take away our rights and harm every American, whether they own a firearm or not. What I challenge, and I would love to hear, where's the other side? Please tell me if you think I'm wrong. If you're listening to this and you go, he has no idea what he's talking about. Please tell me, how am I wrong? Read the bill. Tell me, what am I misunderstanding? Because I have read the bill in detail. Please tell me how I'm wrong about what I believe the bill allows the government to do. How are we protected from the abuse of power that it seems to indicate? How is it going to protect people? Because as I understand with the red flag laws, and even with this bill by Kevin Parker, State Senator Kevin Parker, how are we going to be protected? Criminals don't get gun licenses, by and large. 95, 99% of them, they're criminals. They're breaking the law. Many of them who have already broken the law are not allowed by law to have a firearm. So they're not getting a gun license. It's not protecting me from the felon, the convicted recidivist felon out there who's going around and committing crimes, violent crimes. I'm not being protected from them. I'm not being protected by someone who is deranged and has an evil intent and may use a car or a bomb or a box cutter or maybe even a firearm. I'm not protected from them. They don't care about the law. They're not under the definition of law-abiding firearm owners. So how am I being protected from them? They don't care what the law is. Otherwise, they wouldn't be breaking it. We wouldn't need the law if they were. We already have laws against murder. If we were not concerned about that, if they followed the law, we wouldn't have murder. They wouldn't be doing the things they do. So please explain to me, how is this not making my life worse? How is it making me more safe? By denying someone by denying you, they are denying you the ability to have a firearm. For women, that means that you cannot protect yourself from rape as effectively as you possibly could with training, with a proper firearm, a 22, a 38, something that would be able to protect you from a rapist or a stalker or some evil individual with bad intent. That denies you one more option to be able to protect yourself. Again, with training and with an understanding of the firearms and practice at gun ranges. Yeah. Why would I want to deny you the ability, another ability to protect yourself? Because you can't tell me that, well, I'll just call the police. How many women are raped in America every day? And because I know the feminists mention this on a regular basis. So why would they want to deny women another avenue of protecting themselves and empowering the women in this nation from these vile acts? They would want to. You would want to protect women. So why is this making me safer? Because I can't see it. I can't see how it could possibly do that. I can see how it will make it easier for Governor Cuomo to run for president. I can see how it would advance the causes of democratic socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Bernie Sanders. I can see how it can help them. I can see how someone like State Senator Kevin Parker, who in 2010 is saying that Republicans are forces of evil and white supremacists, I can see how that could help him turn a portion of his constituency to gain votes and to stay in power. I can see that. I can't see how it helps me or you be safe. I can see the political power game. I don't see anything else. Now, maybe you disagree. Maybe you say, Mike, you're just not getting it. Okay. Maybe you think that I'm overreacting. Okay. That's quite possible. I won't deny it. It is quite possible I could be overreacting. And I would rather overreact than not. And I'd rather be more protective of my rights and your rights than not. I'd rather stand up and have someone say, Mike, you're not seeing this right and you just don't understand it, and please explain it to me. Go for it. But I'd rather protect America than wake up one morning and have less rights and be less protected. And that's why I'm thankful that I have the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, to back up and protect my ability to speak with you and to share my thoughts, and for you to share them back with me. That's what I'm thankful for in this Thanksgiving. And this is hopefully what everyone can be thankful for, because of those two things, we can then have everything else. Everything can and does come out of those two things. You may agree, you may not. It's food for thought. But with that said, I thank everyone for being here on this Thanksgiving episode. I hope that everyone finds warmth, that everyone is well fed, that everyone is amongst friends on this Thanksgiving everywhere in the world, especially in America. And I look forward to talking with you again on Saturday. That'll be the 24th of November. I will be doing my Facebook Live event, assuming that Facebook allows me to get online with it. And I'll be talking with everyone publicly, directly. You'll be able to call in and talk with us and share some of your thoughts on whatever subject in politics you would like. And I look forward to it. And until then, I hope everyone will be very well.